Okay, let's dive in. Think back with me, if you will, to early 2020.
Right, a really unsettling time.
Totally. The world's basically grinding to a halt because of the pandemic. Economies shutting down.
Businesses were just facing ruin almost overnight.
Yeah, livelihoods disappearing. It felt, well, unprecedented, unthinkable, really. And right in that moment, the U.S. government steps in with this absolutely massive relief effort.
The Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP.
Exactly. PPP. It was sold as this lifeline,
Yeah.
Pure and simple.
For small businesses, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep them afloat, keep people paid.
So that's what we're unpacking in this deep dive, the PPP.
And it was huge. What was the final figure? Something like $800 billion.
Roughly $800 billion dispersed. I mean, just think about that number.
One of the biggest U.S. relief efforts ever.
Absolutely. So we're going to look at how it was structured, why it faced such immense fraud problems.
Which were linked to that rapid rollout, the weak oversight.
Right. And how these fraudsters operated. Some methods were honestly pretty bold.
Audacious is a good word for it.
And importantly, how the government's fighting back and what we've learned.
Okay.
And just so you know where we're getting our info, we've got reports from the SBA, the Small Business Administration,
It's Inspector General, the OIG.
the GAO, Government Accountability Office, and the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, PRAC.
A lot of official sources.
Plus insights from places like NBC News and the enforcement side, FBI, DOJ, IRS.
So a pretty comprehensive picture.
Hopefully. Okay, so let's start with the intention, the PPP's goal.
Well, it came out of the CARES Act, March 2020.
Right, and the doors open, what, April? Just a month later. Super fast.
Incredibly fast. And the core aim was simple. Save jobs.
Support small businesses, fewer than 500 employees, right?
That was the threshold, yes.
Yeah.
And the tool was these low-interest loans that could be forgiven.
Forgiven if you use them correctly, like mostly for payroll.
Exactly. At least 60% had to go to payroll costs to get that full forgiveness.
The rest for rent, utilities, that kind of thing.
On paper, pretty straightforward. Needed.
And the scale, wow. It started at $349 billion.
Which sounds like a lot, but it wasn't nearly enough initially.
No way. The demand was just overwhelming, so they boosted it.
Yeah, quickly expanded to $659 billion total. And it ran into 2021.
It really shows the level of economic desperation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the government trying to throw everything at it fast.
But, and this is the big but, that speed created a critical flaw.
The self-certification model.
Explain that. It meant businesses basically just raised their hand and said, we qualify.
Pretty much. To get money out the door immediately, they relied heavily on the applicant's own statements. Banks processed it, but the verification,
Was minimal.
especially at the start.
Very minimal. Necessary for speed, they argued, but it created huge vulnerabilities.
So, knowing that pressure, was there any way to do it differently, to balance speed and security?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or rather, multi-billion-dollar question here.
Yeah, good point.
Look, in a crisis like that, you're making tough choices. Delaying aid could mean total economic collapse for many.
Which is unthinkable.
Right, so you push it out fast.
But the PPP showed just how massive the leakage can be. The controls are weak.
So maybe the focus shouldn't have been perfect prevention up front.
Perhaps not perfect, no. Maybe it needed smarter, quicker checks after the money went out. Or better recovery tools built in from day one.
Because that desire to help, while totally understandable,
It definitely overrode the usual checks and balances. Systemic.
and the result, huge fraud. I mean, it's not just a side issue, it's central to the PPP story.
Oh, absolutely. A major, major problem. The estimates are just staggering.
We're hearing figures like 8 to 10% of the total $800 billion.
Which works out to, what, $64 billion to $80 billion?
Yeah, somewhere in that range. And remember, the SBA's first estimate, $36 billion.
That was widely criticized, yeah. Seemed way too low even then.
And now multiple agencies are landing on similar, much higher numbers. The SBA's own Inspector General.
In June 2023, they said $64 billion. Based on data analysis complaints.
The GAO, independently, also landed on $64 billion for PPP.
Right, and they pointed out it was part of over $200 billion in fraud across all the pandemic relief programs.
Wow. And they blamed the hasty rollout, too.
Primarily, yes. Then you have PRA's, the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee.
What did they find?
They looked specifically at suspicious Social Security numbers, found $5.4 billion in fraud, tied to nearly 70,000 sketchy SSNs across PPP and EIDL.
EIDL being the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, another big program.
Exactly, pulled from 33 million applications.
NBC News suggested even higher, maybe $80 billion, that 10% mark.
And the FBI and SBA OIG did a joint estimate, sort of broadening the view again.
What was their take?
Around $64 billion for PPP, but potentially another $136 billion for EIDL, so combined.
You're looking at $200 billion, or maybe up to $280 billion across just those two.
That's the range they estimated. It's mind-boggling.
What strikes me is how all these different groups, using different methods,
IP addresses, bank accounts, SSNs, hotline tips.
they all converged on these massive numbers.
Right. It's not just one group saying this.
Yeah.
It really underlines how widespread the problem was.
And it shows how hard it is to even quantify this stuff accurately, right?
Absolutely, especially when it's happening so fast on such a scale. Each method gives you a slice, but when they line up,
It gives you confidence the problem is genuinely huge. Pervasive fraud.
that's the word, pervasive.
Okay, so let's dig into how they did it. The GAO report from May 2023.
was pretty direct. Said those weak controls were basically an invitation.
Enabled all sorts of schemes, some simple, some complex.
Uh-huh.
So what were the most common tricks?
Top of the list. Fictitious businesses.
Yeah.
Just making companies up out of thin air.
Seriously, how common was that?
Get this.
Yeah.
2/3 of the cases involve fake businesses.
Yeah.
About 67%.
Wow. And that cost.
Around $389 million lost
Yeah.
just to that specific scheme based on the cases analyzed.
And you mentioned an example.
Yeah, one person apparently created 10 fake firms,
Mhm.
siphoned off over $100 from PPP, and then grabbed another $640,000 plus from EIDL using the same fakes.
Unbelievable. So brazen. What else?
Falsified documents, almost as common, used in 69% of cases.
What kind of documents?
Mostly inflating employee numbers, so fake tax forms, fake payroll records, making the company look bigger.
To get a bigger loan.
Exactly. That accounted for about 73% of the falsified document cases.
Identity theft must have been in there too.
Oh yeah, about 19% used stolen personal info PII, and 15% used stolen social security numbers specifically.
Any examples that stand out?
There was one case, just awful, where nearly $1.7 million was defrauded using the identity of someone who had died.
Oh, that's grim. Exploiting grief.
Truly grotesque. Then there was just the sheer volume of duplicate applications.
People just applying multiple times.
Or slight variations. The system flagged over 500,000 loans, 524,600 with duplicate info.
And the value tied to those?
Huge, $51.1 billion.
51 billion just from duplicates.
Yeah, flagged as potentially problematic duplicates. And then the foreign element you mentioned earlier.
Right, the foreign IP addresses. How much was that?
An estimated $55 billion in suspicious loans came from foreign IPs. Places like Russia, China.
How does that even work? Billions going overseas from a U.S. small business program.
Well, like we touched on, the weak controls were global invitations.
So, organized crime, maybe? Or just opportunists everywhere?
Probably both. Sophisticated networks using bots, stolen identities. They could file from anywhere.
Shows how interconnected and vulnerable our systems are.
Definitely. It wasn't just simple local fraud. It was complex, global, organized crime, too.
And many weren't acting alone, right? Conspiracies.
Yeah, about 24% of cases involve groups, facilitators working together.
And it wasn't just PPP fraud in isolation.
No, lots of connections. TPP fraud linked to unemployment scams, even healthcare fraud. It's all tangled.
And the SBA's own system was flagging things. Hold codes, defaults.
Right. Plus, they got over 250,000 complaints through hotlines and other channels.
250,000. How many were actually useful?
They deemed about 90,000 actionable. Still a huge number of leads.
Just so many red flags. It's incredible.
It really paints a picture of a system under siege.
Okay, so with all this fraud, what about accountability? The hunt for the fraudsters.
It became a massive multi-agency effort, DOJ, IRS, FBI, all coordinating.
And they have made progress, right? Getting convictions?
They have. The IRS, for instance, by March 2024, had investigated cases totaling $8.8 billion.
And that led to?
Over 1,000 indictments, 1,011, 803 arrests,
Yeah.
and 529 convictions just from the IRS investigation.
Okay, so real consequences for some.
Definitely. But you have to weigh that against the total suspected fraud amount.
It's a fraction, obviously, but still significant work.
Yes. And remember, the statute of limitations is 10 years for these cases.
Meaning investigations are still very much ongoing.
Absolutely. This isn't over.
Can you give us some specific case examples? Bring the numbers to life.
Sure. The SBA OIG highlighted one, a $6 million romance scam.
A romance scam tied to PPP. How?
Exploiting identity theft gained through the romance scam
Yeah.
to file fraudulent PPP loans. Very layered.
Wow. Okay, what else?
There's a huge $140 million kickback scheme. The tout. Identical payroll data across tons of applications.
Not very so.
Sometimes the simple things trip them up. Then there was the fake farm case.
Fake farm. Sounds picturesque.
Huh. Two people claimed $287,500 for farm employees that just didn't exist.
And they got caught.
Yep. Convicted of wire fraud.
Any others?
Well, there was a nonprofit CEO who defrauded over $300,000 for phantom employees.
And spent it personally.
Seems so. Then a bigger one. $11.5 million fraud across PPP and the restaurant fund, the RRF. Used fake assets. Got convicted in 2022.
And you mentioned conspiracies earlier.
Yeah, one notable case involved 23 people, over 200 applications, millions defrauded, real organized rings.
And what about the role of fintechs, those newer financial tech companies?
That's an interesting angle. House reports noted that some fintechs, maybe because of their models or speed,
Ended up shifting the fraud risk onto the SBA.
that was a finding in some cases, yeah. It raises systemic questions.
Like, who should be responsible for the due diligence in these massive, fast programs?
Exactly. How do you distribute that responsibility fairly? Government agencies, sure, but traditional banks
Who have established procedures?
versus the newer fintechs operating differently. It's complex.
We need to figure that out for next time, right? How to share that burden effectively.
Precisely. It's a key lesson for designing more resilient emergency programs. You can't just put it all on the government or let it slide down to others.
So, investigations are ongoing, thanks to that 10-year window. What about getting money back? Recovery.
That's actually been a relative bright spot. The SBA OIG has recovered a significant chunk.
Oh my.
Around $30 billion recovered, either returned voluntarily or seized through enforcement actions.
$30 billion back is not insignificant, compared to the $64–80 billion estimate.
No, it's substantial, a major effort.
Yeah.
And the SBA itself has made changes, right? Learning lessons.
Yes, they've implemented systemic improvements, formed a dedicated fraud risk management board,
Trying to get ahead of it for the future.
and boosting their data analytics. Using tech to spot red flags earlier, prevent fraud better.
Which is crucial. Adapting the defenses.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, it's quite a story, isn't it?
It really is. The PPP story is this fundamental paradox.
An absolutely necessary program born of crisis,
Designed to save jobs, save businesses, truly essential work.
but built for speed above all else.
And that very design just flung the doors wide open for fraud. Massive, unprecedented fraud.
We've talked about the scale, $64–80 billion potentially lost.
And the methods. Fake companies, stolen identities, foreign actors. Just incredible creativity in a bad way.
Right.
So this deep dive, it's more than just numbers. It's really a lesson, isn't it?
A profound one. About crisis management, of policy design,
That constant tightrope walk between speed and security.
and about the ingenuity of fraudsters, frankly. How they adapt and exploit.
And it impacts us all, right? It affects how we view these huge government efforts. Public trust is on the line.
Definitely. When billions go missing, it erodes confidence.
So let's leave you with a thought to chew on, building on everything we've discussed.
Okay.
If, heaven forbid, we face another national crisis needing this kind of immediate, massive government response.
What are the absolute must-have lessons from PPP?
Yeah, the non-negotiable takeaway is to make sure help gets where it's needed, but the exploitation is minimized.
What trade-offs are we really willing to make next time between instant aid and stronger safeguards?
And maybe, how do we build a system where everyone involved, government, banks, fintechs, truly shares the responsibility for protecting those funds from the start?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Finding that better balance for the next inevitable crisis.